hope you can hear me. I'm back at the Charleston Town Center to give you guys an update of day 14 of the Don Blankenship Trial. Our online editor told me that I need to be doing my periscope in horizontal instead of vertical, so I hope this format is okay for you guys. Anyway, we heard testimony from two people today in the Don Blankenship Trial. First, we heard from James Keith McElroy. He was one of the Mine Safety and Health Administration officials who investigated the explosion at Upper Big Branch Mine, where 29 coal miners were killed April 5th, 2010. He joined the investigation in July of 2010. And he testified today that during his investigation he found that 8 of the water sprayers were missing on a long wall shear drum. And to break that down a little bit, a long wall is a type of mine. You have room and pillar mining and you have long wall mining. So this portion of the mine is a long wall mine, and it is mined by a piece of an equipment called a shearer, and it goes back and forth, back and forth. The defense attorney described it like a cheese grater almost, how it goes down and mines the coal. So on each end of the shearer you have, I forget what the name of the ends were called, but they have bits on each end, and the bits, they rotate, and that's what actually mines the coal. So McElroy testified that the water sprayers are located behind the bits, and the purpose of the water sprayer is to, number one, suppress coal dust as the coal is being mined, and number two, to help cool down those bits, because if they get dull and then they hit rock, they can cause a spark, which can cause an explosion. So, you know, the purpose of those water sprayers are safety related. They're to suppress the coal dust, which coal miners will breathe, and float dust can also be an ignition source, and to also help cool down those bits. So he testified that 8 of those sprayers on one of the sections of the shear was they were completely missing, and a number of the sprayers were clogged off. So he said in no way would this have been in compliance with safety regulations. He also testified that some of the bits on the shear were dull. Defense attorneys actually on Tuesday evening, right before, it was after the jury had left, but right before court was out for the day, they tried to get McElroy's testimony barred because they said that he wasn't qualified as an expert. The prosecutors argued, however, that he wasn't testifying as an expert. He was testifying based on his observations during the investigation. So the judge actually sided with the prosecutors on this, and they agreed. She agreed that McElroy was testifying just based on his observations. Let's see. During the cross-examination of McElroy today, the defense attorney, Jim Walls, he kind of tried to disqualify McElroy's knowledge of coal mining. McElroy said he spent 38 years in the mining industry. He started out as a coal miner and worked at various different types of coal mines, but he never worked at a longwall mine. And until his work with MSHA, he said that he never actually saw a shearer work. He never saw it being maintenance. He never saw how a water sprayer would be cleaned out or how a bit would be changed until his work with MSHA. So let's see. And the defense also pointed out the importance of bit maintenance. Defense attorneys throughout the trial have tried to say that production and safety goes hand in hand. And Walls argued that sharper bits on a mining machine will mine coal better than dull bits. So upper management would really want the miners to take the time to stop their production, change out the dull bits, and put in the sharper bits so they can mine better coal faster. So let's see. The defense also brought out the 30-minute production reports that we've heard some about throughout the trial. Prosecutors are trying to say that Don Blankenship, who was the former Massey Energy CEO, that he micromanaged all of the coal mines at Massey, and that he asked for production reports every 30 minutes from these mines. So we actually got to see some of those 30-minute reports today from the Upper Big Branch mine. The defense attorney presented those reports from the day of the explosion, April 5th, from 7:30 a.m. up until 2:30 p.m. And each of those reports showed how much of the seam of coal had been mined, and any downtime from production was noted on the report. If they had to stop to change bits, that was noted, but there was never actually any mention whatsoever of whether the water sprays were changed or checked or anything like that. And McElroy pointed out that the last 30-minute production for the day, which would have been at 3 p.m., was never found. The explosion occurred at 3:27 p.m., and even throughout, later on in their investigation, he said that they checked every resource that they could, and they could never find that 3 p.m. production report. And also during his redirect, Assistant U.S. Attorney Steve Ruby noted, or he kind of suggested that water sprays on the shearer were probably only used on days when coal miners were wearing the respirable dust monitors. Those dust monitors monitor the amount of coal dust that the miners are breathing. So he suggested that probably the only days that the water sprayers were being used on that miner were on days when the levels were being monitored by MSHA. Okay. For the last bit of the day, we heard testimony from a former Upper Big Branch fire boss. His name is Scott Halstead. We'll hear cross-examination from him tomorrow. But he testified about his black lung diagnosis. He said he started working at Upper Big Branch around 2000 or 2001, and he had worked in the mining industry for, I think he said, around 35 years, but he worked his way up the ranks, and he was eventually a fire boss at UBB, and his job as a fire boss was to go through the mines and to look for any violations and to make sure that any coal that had spilled off of the conveyor belt was cleaned up, and that rock dust was spread throughout the mine where it needed to be. And he explained that whenever a coal miner is given a black lung diagnosis, they're considered a Part 90 miner. And as a Part 90 miner, they have a right to be assigned to a less dusty area of the coal mine. And MSHA also requires, in addition to having miners wear those respirable dust monitors throughout the mine, they specifically require these Part 90 miners to wear those dust monitors at different times than the other miners in the mine. They want to make sure that the mine is complying with their standards, that those coal miners be placed in a less dusty area. So Halstead testified that he was supposed to do his regular job assignment while he was wearing this monitor, but the UBB safety director, his name was Berman Cornett, would accompany him underground and do his work for him while he stood in the fresh air intake. So this safety director would do his rock dusting duties, would shovel coal, whatever his duties were for that day, while he stood in the fresh air intake, so his dust monitor would get a cleaner reading. Let's see. Also, during Halstead's testimony, the prosecution presented a number of entries from a belt conveyor examination book, and what this was it was a pre-shift report where the fire bosses would go through the mine and write down any areas that needed to be rock dusted, or any areas that needed to be cleaned up, or just whatever that they saw needed to be taken care of. So then the prosecution, they showed the pre-shift reports, and then they showed the reports after the fact, and in so many instances no action had been taken whatsoever to remedy those problem areas. So cross-examination of Halstead will begin at 9 a.m. In the morning. And today, after the jury was excused, lead defense attorney Bill Taylor was asking about, how far the prosecution has moved along in its case. He said it seemed to be taking longer than, you know, what they had expected. And Ruby mentioned that, you know, they had planned to present the entirety of their case within 8 or 9 days, but we've already surpassed that. He said a couple of the objections have taken longer than what they had anticipated, and a couple of the cross-examinations have also were also longer than what they had anticipated. So anyway, he said that the prosecution expects to rest its case early next week, so that'll give you guys a little bit better idea of where we are in the trial right now. And after the prosecution has rested its case, we'll hear evidence and witness testimony from the defense. And if you guys have any questions about the trial procedure, about any of the testimony or the witnesses that we've heard so far, please reach out to me. My email is Register-Herald.com. I'll be back in court tomorrow. I'll post updates on Twitter as soon as I can. And be sure to check for, we didn't have a morning session of court today, so I have no lunch update, but my update for this evening should be posted online either later this evening or first thing in the morning, so be sure and check that out, Register-Herald.com. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll check back in with you tomorrow. Have a good night.